Hey everybody, Mitchell here from the Foundry Kids. We are in our last week of our Joseph series and we are so excited. We're going to see the completion of the Joseph story, but first we are going to do the thing we do every week. You guys know what's coming. It is time for worship. So go ahead and stand up and let's worship.
Causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose for them. Romans 8:28.
I lived hard on the wire, hand in the fire for so long, but you showed me better, a new kind of love. It's ever the one I want. I'm lifting you higher, higher. There's nothing that I'd rather do. A sweet elevation of praises. There's no one I love more than you. I never knew a love like this before. The kind of life that I could not find on my own. I've seen the world, but I have never been so sure that I want your heart. God, I just wanna be where you are. Where you are. I just wanna be where your love, like nothing I've seen. My wildest of dreams don't come close. I've never known better than living like this. I cannot resist you, Lord. I'm lifting you higher, higher. There's nothing that I'd rather do. A sweet elevation of praises. There's no one I love more than you. I never knew a love like this before. The kind of life that I cannot find on my own. I've seen the world, but I have never been so sure that I want your heart. God, I just wanna be where you are. Where you are. I just wanna be where you are. Where you are. I just wanna be where you are. places. There's no one I love more than you. I never knew a love like this before. The kind of life that I cannot find on my own. I've seen the world, but I have never been so sure that I want your heart. God, I just wanna be where you are. Where you are. I just wanna be where you are. Where you are. I just wanna be where you are.
Great job, everybody. Now let's sit down and watch our Bible lesson. Good?
Stories of the Bible. Joseph and the Promised Land. This is Joseph.
Hey!
Who's the son of Israel and Rachel. Joseph was the most loved of all his brothers, so his brothers hated him. After being sold into slavery and put in jail, Joseph found favor with the Pharaoh and ruled over all of Egypt. He helped Egypt thrive during 7 years of abundance, and then he was prepared for 7 years of famine because God had helped Joseph to understand the Pharaoh's dreams about what would happen to Egypt. Now during this time, Joseph's brothers came to seek his help, and after testing them, Joseph told them who he was, and he forgave his brothers for all the trouble they had put him through. But Joseph had not seen his father for many years.
Hey!
So he sent for Israel and his brothers' families. Together they all traveled to the land of Egypt, where Joseph would provide for them in the famine. Pharaoh allowed Joseph and all his brothers to settle in one of the best parts of Egypt. And finally, Joseph was reunited with his father. Joseph lived 110 years and saw 3 generations of his family flourish in the land.
Hey!
Before Joseph died, he told his brothers of the future of Egypt. He told them of the exodus that would take place, meaning that they would all return to the promised land of their father Israel, his father Isaac, and his father Abraham. He made his brothers promise that when they left the land of Egypt, they would take his bones with them and bury them in the promised land. Joseph always lived with hope that God would deliver him and his people. Though many people meant to show him harm throughout his life, God meant it all for good, so that many people should live because of his faith.
All right, guys, now it is time for our response. Our good friend Kurt, he's going to come on the screen. He's going to talk about how this lesson relates to our everyday lives.
Well, hey there, welcome back. If we've not met, my name is Kurt, and for the last few weeks, together, we've been taking an up-close look at the life of Joseph. Have you ever thought about this, how that in life, sometimes things are just good? Like for you, maybe you know life is good when there's no homework, maybe you don't have baseball or soccer practice, you have an early out day at school, an early release day. For me, it's good when there's no stress, there's no drama, there's no more hair loss. Now, in these moments, we can simply enjoy the gift of life without worrying about anything. And we should always celebrate moments like these. But these moments are also a really good opportunity to remember the difficult times that God has led us through, and to remind ourselves that even in the tough times, God has blessed us in so many ways. When I was a student, the start of summer was always a great time to think about the highs and the lows of the previous school year, just like Katie is doing right here. Sometimes when life is going really well, it can be easy to forget all about God. We don't really need Him. Life is great, and we forget that He's a major part of why life is so great. When life is good, we can forget about all the times when it wasn't good. And when we do that, we lose sight of all the difficult times that God has helped us get through. That's why it's always good to take a look at our lives, to remember God's blessings and all the ways that we would be lost without Him. As we've seen over the course of this series, Joseph went through some definite highs and some really low lows in his lifetime. He began life as his father's favorite son. That's a high. Then he was sold into slavery and ended up in a foreign land. That's a low. He rose to a position of power, and then he was falsely accused of a crime and sent to prison. Joseph went through more pain in his life than most of us ever will. His story is also a great example of how quickly life can change. One moment, it might be wonderful, but the next thing you know, life can go from easy to difficult, from happy to painful. There's nothing we can do to prevent these unexpected changes. They're simply a part of life. Highs and lows, good days and bad days, seasons where we know God is blessing us, and seasons in our lives where it seems like He's forgotten all about us. But we can choose how we respond to those moments. You see, how we respond has a lot to do with how we prepare. After Joseph was reunited with his family and when they joined him in Egypt, things seemed to go pretty well for him. It was a time of high in his life. No more lies, no more betrayals, no more dramatic changes. For the rest of his life, he was able to enjoy the blessings that God had given him and his family. By this point, Joseph had fully experienced God's plan for his life, and he knew to trust God no matter what, because he had seen God's work in his life firsthand. Life is a fragile thing. It can change at a moment's notice with little warning. That doesn't mean that we should live in fear, holding too tightly to the good things that we have, but it does mean that we should prepare ourselves for the difficult times that are certain to come our way sooner or later. How do we do this? Well, we do this by reminding ourselves of all the ways God has provided for us in the good times and the bad. A really good practice that I've learned over the years is to write down the things that I'm grateful for. I don't just write down gifts I've received or the fun, pleasant experiences I've had. I also write down how God was with me during difficult times. The reason I do that is because sometimes when we're going through tough situations in our lives, we forget that God has helped us get through tough situations before. And so I can go back and look at what I've written as a reminder that God's gotten me through these kind of things before, and I know He can do it again. Another good practice is to study stories like Joseph's in the Bible. You see, Joseph isn't the only person in the Bible who went through highs and lows, who experienced God's faithfulness in his or her life. And by studying the lives of other Christians and other biblical figures, we can learn how they navigated the difficult moments in their life. We can see how God provided for them even in their worst moments. If you have a Bible at home, you might want to ask a parent or a church leader on what they think you might want to read so that you can read more and more examples of how God has been with people all throughout their lives, especially in the difficult times. Now, I hope that every single one of you is experiencing a really great, happy stage of life right now. But remember, whether life is good or bad, God is with us no matter what. Thanks for coming this week. I hope to see you all very soon.
Thanks so much, guys, for watching with us. Have a great week, and we hope to see you soon.